Nathan, and what we're going to do today is just talk you through a tool that we've been using and see how you can use it in your day-to-day work. Now, for me, what's very important in these conferences is that what happens in the next 75 minutes is what you expect to be happening. So just be very clear, this is what we're going to do, and if you don't want to stay, you can leave, it's okay. Basically, we're going to share a soft skills approach that we use in our company, and then we're going to get you to apply it to a business English training context. Now, target training, we have three bits of business. One is the business English, one is the soft skills, and one is the intercultural. This is an approach that we developed about 4 years ago, and what we'll do is explain the background to the story, what the approach is, and then challenge you to apply it, okay? But to get you warmed up and to get you started, we've got a couple of very basic questions which everybody will have an opinion about. You guys, what I'd like you to do is to form little groups, take a piece of paper, and answer this question. In your experience, what gets in the way of an experienced presenter making a great presentation? Now, you've all probably worked with people presenting. What stops these people from succeeding? You guys, another old chestnut, what is a great presentation? Okay, we'll give you 10 minutes. Take a piece of paper. We'll give you a pen and just write up your thoughts. Big one. You can have a marker, definitely.
They don't actually even agree exactly, they're not convinced. Oh, absolutely, they're not convinced by the arguments.
Turn it the other way around.
You to stop, and some poor unlucky soul should stand up there with a paper in front of them, as if they're touting their wares. Okay?
I'll stand up.
And each take a few minutes to have a look at each other's comments. Okay? This side is what stops a great presenter from working. This side is what is a great presentation.
Gets in the way. So, I just turned on the slowly.
Okay. Yep. Charles, do you want to bring it up front?
Bring him up front.
We're going to be back in about 20 minutes and you can continue.
What's about now? Something very different. What's wrong with mine? Oops. attending. That's really great. Oh, yes, assuming too much, yeah.
I'd like to pick up on something I overheard. I think it was actually Rita's group, and the comment was none of the stuff you were writing down had anything to do with the delivery of the presentation. Was that? That was
Well, it was
paraphrased.
sort of, we were talking very much about the external factors or the environmental factors rather than the content itself. We did allude to the content.
We had the
actually.
personality
yes.
of the presenter
Yes,
as
we
well,
did.
but we didn't discuss like pronunciation or something like this.
Exactly.
At all, no.
Live enthusiasm we have.
Let's keep that in mind because we'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. Okay, thank you guys. Sit down. Make a huge big aeroplane with that later.
First time ever I was a flip chart.
Do you guys at the back want to come a bit closer so we don't have to shout? Okay, like yourselves, I mean, we are working with people who are presenting all of the time, and in a business English context, in a soft skills context. We ran into a very challenging project about 4 years ago, which made us actually look at the whole presentation approach with a fresh set of eyes. And the story that we ran into is a large financial services company. Every year they had an annual PDM meeting. The PDM meeting is all of the partners, all of the directors, all of the managers would come together once a year. Okay? It was about 240 people. And during this meeting, the teams would present. And the purpose of this was so that everybody got to know a little bit about what was happening in the company. This old, if only we knew what we knew, was being addressed. The second thing was networking. You know, a lot of it was about having a chance to talk to each other, get to know each other, and that would hopefully lead to cross-selling. So for them, this was the flagship of their internal communication in their company. And what they had, and this is where we begin to roll our eyes, they had 26 presentations. Each presentation was 15 minutes long, and they were all running simultaneously. So it was almost like a World Cafe concept, where participants would rotate between the presentations. So over the course of the day, they would watch 26 15-minute presentations. Okay? And the feedback they had was that the previous year had lacked something. That it wasn't hitting the spot, it wasn't very good, basically. And they brought us in, we'd been working with the client with other areas, and they said, can you help? You know, can you help us to improve these presentations? So the first thing, of course, we did is we began talking to the audiences and to the partners and to the people who were pushing this idea and asking what was wrong. You know, what was it that you were looking for? What do you need from us exactly? Now, to clarify, if this is the confidence level, and if this is experience, the people we're talking about are here. Okay? These are very successful people who've climbed to the top of their career. Confidence is not an issue. Okay? They are slick, they are polished, they are good, solid presenters, great networkers. And we began to ask what was going on. And picking up on something you guys said over there, if you look at a presentation as a process with 4 steps, and I would say the first step is the design. So actually designing what am I going to say, then taking that idea and developing it, and then delivering it, and then of course debriefing with yourself and colleagues and saying what could I do better. So if those are our 4 steps. All of the problems we ran into were not to do with their presentation skills in the sense of their delivery, in the sense of their voice, in the sense of their body, and in the sense of a lot of the things when we approach from a business English aspect, it's the language you need to present. That wasn't the issue. These people were B2, C1. Their problems were in the design and the delivery phase. And POPO was your abbreviation. What we were seeing is that people were thinking in PowerPoint, that these very confident, very able presenters were basically taking slides, putting them together, and then trying to present the slide set that they'd made. And really, they were just taking their brain out and putting PowerPoints into it. And that, for us, was the challenge. Okay? And it was to try to get them, they knew how to do it. I mean, what we're going to talk about today, we don't have any secrets. We haven't discovered the holy grail of presenting. You all know what it is. But they just had forgotten it. They were too busy, they were too focused, and they were just going into bad habits. And we needed to create a system to get them back and to actually get them to slow down and to think, what am I doing? And these were the key points we identified. The first thing was we wanted them to actually identify their walk-away message. Now, all of us tell our participants, what are you doing? But actually getting them to say, what is the walk-away message for the audience? What are they going to do or think or feel after their 15 minutes with you? The second thing was getting them to actually merge their message with the audience, trying to connect their message to what the audience was open to hearing, to provide a clear structure, obvious, okay? But if you're thinking in PowerPoint, that becomes your structure, and not actually the presentation itself. Anticipating questions, actually thinking in advance, what questions do I expect to be getting, what questions do I hope to be getting? Getting them to actually connect with the audience. Now this is where it gets very soft, it's about rapport building and building credibility. And then getting them to tell stories. And a lot of us have run into storytelling, it's been around since the beginning of mankind. But getting people to actually say, this is my story and I'm going to tell it. And our goal with Nathan and a guy called James was they would stand up with no PowerPoints. And they would just talk to them for 15 minutes and hold their attention. So we had with these 26 groups a day each, but it wasn't actually a full day. It was a few hours here, half an hour on the phone. And what we took was a coaching approach. I use the word carefully because we weren't coaching in the sense of the classic meaning. We were training them, but we were taking a coaching approach. And by that, I mean that we were letting them drive it, and we were challenging them, and we were asking them questions and getting them to do the thinking. Because we were not in a position to tell them what to do. These were uber successful people, okay, with cars that you don't even know exist. Okay, they weren't willing to be told. They had to actually work out themselves what was going on with their presentations. What I'm going to do is go into a bit more detail, and then I'm going to flip it back over to you, okay? You don't have to take notes. All of this stuff is available, and there's also an ebook you can download for free, which has everything there, okay? The identify. I mean, what we're talking about there is what do you want the audience to learn, or to do, or to feel? And our challenge to them was you have to actually give us your purpose in 15 words or less. Why 15? Well, it kind of worked, basically. If it was too short, it became an exercise in people speaking in bullets. And if it was too long, it didn't get them to focus. So going back to the beginning of this presentation, I want to share an approach and get you to transfer it to the business English training context. And that they struggled with, because they were arriving to the training with their PowerPoints and they had to put them in the bin and start again. Merging your message, actually getting them to write down, and what we would challenge them with these questions, write down 3 points that best support your purpose from the audience's perspective. And what we found is these people were stumped, because they just weren't actually taking the time to think about the people they were presenting to. Provide a clear structure. Now we all know it could be past, present, future, but we'd actually get them to draw their presentation, which made them stop and think and say, okay, this is part 1, and then it connects into part 2, and part 3 is the house. And we saw some very wonderful pieces of art coming out of these people who hadn't actually picked up a marker in a very long time. Anticipate questions, actually getting them to write down 4 questions that they would expect to be asked, and then challenging them to say, well, why haven't you already addressed this? Or is it tactical? Are you leaving the answer out so that they have to engage with you and therefore you can begin building rapport? Also 4 questions you wish they would ask. And how are you going to actually work that into to your presentation. But as I said a minute ago, this is all very basic stuff. They just weren't doing it. They were being too focused on just getting out there, moving to the next presentation. Connecting. I am credible because. That's a sentence that stumps a lot of presenters. Why? Why am I credible? And then actually trying to define 3 things you are doing to build rapport. We talk about rapport as if it's a magical connection, that somehow you have it or you don't have it. Okay? I have rapport with this person over here, but this guy's ignoring me. It's okay.
I ignore everybody.
And actually saying, you can build rapport. What are you going to do? Are you going to share common experiences? Are you going to start addressing people by their first name? Okay, but challenging them to say, how am I doing this mystical soft step? And it actually got them thinking an awful lot about their behavior, which is where I think soft skills and language training tend to move apart at that step. And finally, tell stories. This was the fun bit, because they knew intellectually it was a good idea, but they just weren't comfortable doing it, especially if you are used to thinking in Helbons. And what we would do is challenge them to go home and give their presentation to their daughter, or their son, or their niece, and let us know how that went. And those of us who have kids, they are unforgiving. If you are not holding their attention, they're gone, and they will let you know they are gone. Okay, so we had people talking about international hedge funds to 6-year-olds, trying to make it entertaining. And they came back changed, basically, basing you can take any message and turn it into a story and capture people's attention. And this is the model we took. And we've been using it for 4 years with advanced presenters since. There is no secret to this. I mean, a lot of this you've seen in other places. It was actually getting people to say, stop, think, why are you doing this? Okay, why are you building your PowerPoints before you've even got a clear idea of what you want to achieve? So a second old chestnut. We were approaching this as a soft skills approach. We had people who were B2, C1s, natives. We had Americans in there, we had French, we had people from all over the world. There was no language training going on. They weren't paying us for that. They didn't want that. They wanted their presentations to be better. But there is clearly an overlap. There was clearly a connection between this. So get back into your groups and discuss this very old, common question which everybody has been bouncing around in BESIG for a very long time, and we will next year as well. Which is, what is the difference, in your opinion, between business English training and soft skills training? For me, that's a very good question. For me, soft skills training can start from communication training, which we can say is presenting, is clearly that, to intrapersonal, which could be teamwork, or influencing, or managing conflict, to management training.
So soft business skills.
Yeah, that's another way. Something which our clients call hard skills technical, soft skills everything else. But where's the question is, what's the difference? And when you're discussing it in groups, consider the different perspectives. Consider the perspective of the client. Consider the perspective of the participant. So if you walked into a presentations training versus a business English class, where are you coming from? And also consider, most importantly, I think for us here, the perspective of the trainer themselves. What's the difference between having to deliver this or this? Okay. We'll give you 10 minutes. You don't need the flip charts, just talk. The questions you still have. You guys at the back?
Yeah, I think we actually had a hard time distinguishing the two. And if I'm not wrong, I think we sort of agreed that that in a session with a company course, omitting one of them would be wrong. So if we didn't handle the linguistic side, we would be wrong, and if we didn't handle the interpersonal side, we'd also be wrong. So they sort of have to both be in there. I think that's a decent summary. Okay.
We had basically the same discussion over here, that it's very difficult to distinguish, And the usual situation is the client comes in, buys the business English training, and then they expect the add-on value that, like, it's not just the language presentation, but you do all the soft skills or business skills training on top, and they don't want to pay for it. And making them aware of, yes, well, if you want more value, you have to pay more money, is actually quite difficult. And that's also something, so I think university lessons were focused on content. That's classical business English with vocab and everything. But as soon as we do in-company training, yeah, I think that's I see a lot of nodding here, that's good. Then it gets into, you need the skills as well, the soft skills or the business skills as well.
To build on that, I would say it's actually impossible to get them to suddenly pay for it. Why would you? Why would I? If I hired you to be a business English trainer, you're doing it, and suddenly want more money because you're telling me something different? No chance. I think a lot of it is to do with positioning and the way you go into the client, and are you this or this? I think there are differences, and I'll share what I think in a minute, but yeah, I think if once you're in that box, I've never got out of that box with any client into another box and suddenly tripled my fees. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
If you start one way, it's impossible to change positioning. You better go to a new client.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody else?
We said that when a client comes with business English training, their focus is language. So that's language driven. So we said that the business English was the bricks to build the house, and that the soft skills was how to build the house with the bricks.
I wish I got that myself. You want to turn that into a model and trademark it really quickly.
We tried to create a story with it.
Anybody else want to throw anything in?
We couldn't help mentioning cross-cultural awareness in with it. We found that quite difficult to separate from soft skills.
I think it is a soft
that's
skill.
difficult for all of us.
It's a soft
Okay.
skill. I mean, absolutely. I mean, from my perspective, all of us who are strong business English trainers, I completely agree with you guys. We are bringing soft skills into the training. And the resources we use are doing that. I would say that that's how we add value, and it's incredibly rewarding. I'm sure many people here have had this, where you help somebody do something in English, and then they turn around and say, well, I better go back and change my French version or my German version. And you suddenly realize that you've given them something really valuable, and that's where they keep on coming back, because they're getting more. You're over-delivering in some way, or at least you're delivering everything that they could be expecting. I think that there are some differences, and I think it depends on what the soft skill is. I think presentations is a communication skill, there's a classic overlap. But I think soft skills also talks about behavior change. And when you start trying to change behaviors, it requires a very different approach as a trainer or as a facilitator. We're not going to go into that today, but I think you do pick up skills. But I think a lot of people in the soft skills industry did start off as business English trainers. And what we have, I forget the name of the Malcolm Gladwell book, but the hours that we have in front of people mean that our interpersonal training skills are excellent. We do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. Your first 2 years in the industry, you're just working all the time. And if you've ever actually experienced soft skills training delivered to yourself, maybe as part of an MBA program or university, the trainers are often pretty crap. They are, very often they are business people who've decided to do a career change and cannot train, or they are academic and cannot train. So I think there is a gap, and I think that a lot of business English trainers have moved into the area. But I completely agree with something you guys said and the Italian lady there, that once you're in this box, you cannot get out of it. And it's about positioning. I would even say with clients, with our company, I don't think we have many cases where a client uses us for business English training and soft skills training. And if they do, they're totally different trainers involved. Because the fees are drastically different. As are the expectations, as is the management interest. So here's my last question. How are we doing for time? 7 minutes. In 7 minutes, I'd like you back in your groups to think of 7 ways that you could apply the impact model to your own business English presentations training. Okay? Make them actionable, so concrete things you could do to take that model and apply it to your training situation. Okay, go. That's 1 minute an idea, so you need to be cooking and guessing.
But the impact,
I will put you back. Can we hear some of the ideas from each of the groups? Who'd like to go first? Okay, thank you for being volunteered.
Okay, the ladies decided to do this a bit by the letter. Oh my God. So,
Yeah, come.
yeah, but I'm just a number girl, ain't I? So, okay. Right. Good. Okay, so we started with, this is a tool I use. Sorry, it's not on the other side. Sorry, so, for example, providing a clear structure, Matt Beadle developed a tool in one of his presentation books for mind mapping. So they have to write down my presentation and they have to draw a mind map of the presentation. And for connecting with the audience, what I always do is say, as a facilitator, I'm also your presenter. So some of the things I'm telling you, I'm going to do, and then I ask them, what did I just do? Yeah, so like dealing with an interruption or something. And also questions to the audience, and of course telling anecdotes. And then Rita uses a tool where she says, imagine somebody else in your position at another company, like an avatar. What questions would they ask? So that they build up something like a simulated self. And then we have, for the M, for merge your message. As soon as I do the needs analysis with the students, what do you want to do today? What are your problems? I'm merging their interest with my workshop. And then I asked, Julia suggested, so she always asks, what keeps your boss awake at night? So that they go one step further. And then we have this, you have to be able to explain your presentation to yourself. And you should tweet your presentation in 140 characters, like the message of your presentation. And then the last point was, what is your USP? We use this idea of selling. Yeah, so marketing, self-marketing. And these are actionable ideas we use in the classroom with our students.
Okay,
That's
so you've
it.
taken the impact model and applied it to
Yeah.
the way you train.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Pick somebody. Who'd like to go next? Everybody's looking at their feet.
Right, the ladies here.
Yep.
Just be volunteered.
Thanks. I'll get you later. Okay, we've got for I to identify the needs and aims of the presentation. Are they concerned about the way that they stage their presentation, or their delivery, the timing, or how they respond to tricky questions? For merging, we've got merging the requirements of all of the stakeholders, so not just what the participants in the classes themselves want, but also what the people who fund the course want, what the audience of the presentation may want. For P, we have provide negotiated objectives and a shared vision of what you think people should be able to achieve and what they want to be able to achieve. With anticipate, we've got anticipate difficulties and concerns that might arise in the class through sufficient planning and reflection. With C, we have connect through appropriate presentation, interaction and rapport with the participants. And T, we kind of ran out of time, so we wrote very quickly, tell experiences and stories that you've had in your own presenting scenarios.
Okay.
You're welcome.
No one else? Come through.
Do you want to hold it up?
Where are you going?
Okay, so we've got pretty similar things, like first of all you can prepare potential questions in a training session. So if you've got your topic, then everyone can help prepare questions that might come up in the presentation. And you can also train strategies for answering questions. For example, if you could say, if you didn't understand the question, then could you please rephrase that question, or that kind of thing. What does that say? Okay, that was your idea. So got the 15-word presentation aim. You could actually do that in the training session itself, in groups or pairs. You can talk about your audience in the training session. You can analyse and identify your potential audience, what kind of background and knowledge they have. and identify ways to connect with the audience. For example, you can start your presentation by asking questions or giving a quote or using interesting visuals or using an object to pass around. You can also practice anecdotes and stories. That's your last point there. Practice that in the training session. And also you can provide group feedback forms so that people can give each other feedback on their presentation. And then finally you can practice the timing of your presentation so you know how long it takes. Okay.
From my experience working with this model, I mean, a couple of things to emphasize. First of all, it is not sequential. It's not like you start with, okay, first of all we're going to focus on identifying your message, then we're going to merge your message. It doesn't work like that. I mean, it looks sequential when it's presented, but you've already realized that some of these things intertwine. That if you're merging your message, you're also connecting, you're building rapport. We use it as a framework to say, okay, we go through it quickly and say, these are the things that we want you to achieve over the next session or the next day, and then take them through them step by step, but you have to keep jumping forward and backwards. I mean, how else? The identify your walkaway message, that 15 words, it is really hard. You have to force them to use prose. They can't have 15 bullets. Okay, it's got to be a sentence that's understandable. I believe strongly you can get any presentation down to those 15 words, but it will drive your participants crazy. They will get frustrated, why, this is childish, I shouldn't have to do this. Okay, but it forces them to really get to the nub of what they want to say. And often that surprises them when they actually define what they're looking for out of this. The merging your message, many of us, a word of warning, many of us talk about what is in it for me. I mean, this WIVM model. My own experience is that's very culturally loaded. It's coming from the States. It is the States as an individualistic society versus a communitarianism society. It's saying, if I speak to you, it's all about you. Whilst in some cultures, I mean, I work in Germany, Germans do not think about what's in it for me personally. Germans approach business about what's in it for us. So getting people to actually reflect on their audience, at the simple questions, what do you know about your audience? Tell me who your audience is and how they think. It just gets people to slow down. And it gets people to think really about who am I speaking to. And when your participants say, well, they're all different, that's nonsense. Okay, you've probably got a profile who's coming to this presentation. The anticipating questions, something we use a lot is a model called the 4 R's, which means reflect. So you ask me a question, I reflect it back to you to check I've understood it, plus it makes you feel as if I'm listening to you, plus it gives me a little bit of time to think. Okay, the respect, that's a good question, I've been asked that before. A lot of people when they ask a question are nervous for some reason, and you want them to ask questions because that's how you build rapport, it's how you turn a monologue into a dialogue. Reflect, respect, respond, you answer it, and then review, did that answer your question? Now that's not a model you apply, all the time, every step, otherwise you sound robotic, you sound like a parrot. But especially working with engineers, which I'm sure many of us do, they don't do the first 2 bits and they don't do the last bit, they just give you the answer and move on. And actually getting them to take questions as an opportunity to build rapport, take questions as an opportunity to connect and show that you want to talk to people. That is very important. The telling stories. I mean, I'd encourage you to look more into this. People resist. It doesn't matter how high up they are in the hierarchy. A lot of people still connect telling stories with childish. And really, it's the last 20 years where suddenly, going back to Microsoft PowerPoint and slides, people have suddenly said, this is how we present. And they've began moving away from the way you actually, from public communication, public speaking skills. But getting people to actually tell you their story. What is the story behind this? What is the background? If it's anecdotes, they need to be relevant. If it's parables, it needs to be relevant. But stories are what inspire people. Stories are what take data or details and turn them into meaning. And if you're working with very confident and very experienced presenters, we often hear, what I'd like to be able to do is just stand up and talk. And if you have a story, you also have your structure, which, you know, helps you straight off. So from our experience, this works. It works really well, and it works with very high-level people. I would not use this with somebody who is an inexperienced presenter, or somebody who is still struggling with the language. It's for somebody it's for your one-to-ones, your CEOs, the people who know what they're doing, and actually, just want to do a much stronger job. As I said, everything there's an ebook. You can go to our homepage, it's about halfway down, and you can download it. Okay? You'll have to put your email address in, but that's it. We won't be sending you bump on a regular basis, don't worry. Okay, and feel free to use it with your participants. I mean, it's out there for you to use. Does anyone have any questions?
Just a few minutes ago, you said that one of the most frustrating things for your clients is to get their message down to 15 words. Do you have any suggestions on how to get them to that point?
You're asking how do we get them to get it to 15?
Yeah, because if they keep telling you that, this is so difficult, it's so frustrating, what could we do to try to make that process easier?
That's a very good question. Be silent. Be silent. Let them have their rant, and then give them that look that you use. But be silent, because it's natural. I mean, you know when to stop. If they are suddenly disengaging from the process because of this step, then move on. But there is it challenges people. I mean, I'd challenge you, if you're presenting during the BESIG, get your message down to 15. Alternatively, if you leave a session, you should be able to write down what you just took out that in 15 words. It's not easy, but it is very achievable. More than 15 is too easy, less than 15 seems to make people speak gibberish. But be silent would be my advice.
Not a question, but I was just thinking it could make a nice collective exercise, couldn't it? Because I was in a workshop once where I was asked to do something similar. I could not refine it, but working with a group, they kept asking me questions till I got it. And, I found it much easier to do collectively than to do as an individual exercise. I think it's quite a nice interactive activity.
And building on that, I could imagine in a business English class where you have people, because people build presentations in group, you'd have a 30-minute discussion about those 15 words.
And you'd get a lot of communication.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Just to comment on that, what we often do is, people have this tendency to write everything they want to say on the PowerPoint, and then we work with this fully packed PowerPoint slide and ask them to shorten the sentences, to boil them down to the message as a warm-up, and say, now you do that with the message of your presentation. So they can write down really long sentences, and then step by step, and it depends on the student, step by step they have to shorten it until really the core message is lived. And then, because it's a reflection process, some can do it silently, some really have to refine it. So that's also something you can do. Sorry.
Have you ever worked with models, using models of other people doing the same thing as they work as a people?
Yeah, I use Steve Jobs a lot. He's a master of the 15 words. So, yeah, they love it. Unless they hate Apple, then they don't.
My issue with Steve Jobs, he's a very good presenter, but it's a very clear US style of presenting, which some people do reject that.
Yeah.
But he's a good storyteller. He's a good storyteller.
I guess you could just do it slowly, so if they can't do it at 15, get them to do it at 20 and then take out 5 words. If they can't do it in 20, let's give them 25, then tell them to take out 10 words. If they're really struggling, let them use 30 and then take away 5, please. Please take another 5 away. Please take another 5. If you go onto Twitter, we've got international companies that are doing this with 140 characters. So those are probably great models to use because they have messages, amazing messages, in such a short text. So maybe use those as models.
I mean, there was nothing new here. You know, I think we could go outside to the exhibitors' displays, look at the chapters and presentations in the course books, and see a lot of this in there. Okay, we didn't create something totally unique. I don't believe that's possible anymore. But I do think that it's a very robust model which you can work with really good presenters, because it doesn't matter how good you are as a presenter with the delivery, the reality is you don't spend the time in the design and the development stage. If you have that time in the design development, delivering it's a piece of cake, because you've already thought it through clearly enough. You will face the challenge of PowerPoints. I mean, if you want to apply this, I would, and somebody turns up, okay, here's my slides, let's start with slide 1. You need them to actually put the slides away and go through this process and then take their slides out. Sorry, Charles?
So, I'm sorry. So what happened next? They had the 26 presentations, 15 minutes. What happened?
Well, to finish the story, we had 26 groups. Some of the groups did really well. Some of the groups didn't engage whatsoever. Okay, I remember one group of really young guys who were very hungry, and they had to deliver a thing about data mining and how you use it for business. And I still remember this 4 years later. Their story was that what they offered as a company is you can look at your data and you can make business decisions using the data. And their story is that Walmart noticed when doing this pilot that beer and nappy sales both rose at 6:30. Okay. As soon as I say that, you put it together. It's because, you know, blokes are being sent out by their wife to go and get the nappies and pick up some beer. What Walmart did is put a beer display next to the nappers and tripled the sales. So some groups really, really took it, and they made a huge impact. Some of the younger groups, especially the people who've just been promoted into the company, they really struggled with this because they were convinced that what they had to do was what was done last year, which was get PowerPoints out. But the feedback was very, very positive. What we didn't know is the way they were going to do it, and what they had was one huge, huge room, all 26 happening at the same time, and dividing them were basically bouncy castle walls. So there were issues with the sound, but I would say out of the 26 groups, over half did incredibly well, and about another quarter just didn't engage whatsoever. But we got more business out of it, and they've asked us to come back and resupply this again and again and again as a coaching style training.
What's your 15 word for this presentation?
I wrote it down because I need some smart
Anticipated questions.
But thank you for asking, and I'll pay you later, okay? Those were my 14 words.
Yeah.
But what I hope, to bring this to an end, what I hope is that I have done that. And that that's what you thought you were getting, okay? Which is sharing a soft skills approach and then asking you to apply it to a business English training context. There was a huge overlap between the way we do business English training and soft skills training. Okay? How you position yourself, what you charge, how you market yourself, that's a totally different conversation. Okay? But of course, you know, the reality is if you can take something like this and apply it in your next class, your participants, your clients will be happy and you'll get more business, which is important to all of us. Plus their presentations will be slightly better. Are there any other questions? Sorry? The doing words. Okay. To wrap up, a little plug. A few other people from our company are presenting in the next couple of days. Tomorrow, Kate and Nathan are talking about training on trial and how we show our clients that what they're paying for us is worth it and they're actually getting something of value. I'd fully recommend that. Sebastian is he's our material developer in the company, so when we have to get courses built, we go to him. He's talking about using the client's corporate intranet and going beyond gap fills and reading for comprehension. And then finally, on Sunday, Jenny is talking about building style guides. Actually, it's the IT department, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Using a client's own materials to help them build a style guide, which therefore helps improve their English and improves the quality of their communication. So all three of those, I would say, are worth going to. If you're a presenter who's presenting at the same time, then you probably can't go, but you could. Okay, thanks a lot.
Stuttgart, last year.
Do you remember which workshop it was?
I don't remember the name of it, but I remember that everybody wrote down on the flip charts on the walls, and there was loads of ideas.
Somebody with a camera.
Oh, and it was online. It was aired. I think it was an online.
So it was a simulcast. It was in the Adobe room. It should still be there. You have to. Are you a member? It might be a BESIG.